Lovely tales from Yorkshire dales told Hansel and Gretel. A rather pleasant account of the fairy tale Hansel and Gretel.
Alright there kids, how's we all doing? Other day our Lacey got a PhD. Never ever been more proud of her than I was that day. You see, while she were off up on the stage to get a fancy piece of paper, some tart cut in front of her, so she set a square bastard out on fire. Never more proud. Like I always say, you can take your girl out of Yorkshire, but you can't take beating someone half to death because they stole your pint out of a girl. To be honest, I wouldn't have bothered going, but she had a stick with a bottle of whiskey dangled on it, so I followed her all the way there. I'll do a lot for whiskey, I will. See, other day, our Sally's getting married in a couple of months. Now, she married a southerner, so I haven't talked to her since. My kids said I should get over it, but I told them to bollocks. Fucking southerner. But anyway, I weren't at all gonna go, especially not sober. Didn't go to my own bloody wedding sober. But anyway, they said they'd give me some of my whiskey back if I went. I'd fucking marrying myself for that. So kids, we're gonna do something a bit different today. As I say, they're taking me fucking whiskey away from me. I am devastated. But anyway, they've left all that wine in house. Now, they probably figured I wouldn't fucking touch it, or even know it were alcohol, but I know it's alcohol. And they've underestimated my desperate need to be drunk. So, even though I despise the very concept, I'm going to be drinking wine today. But I'm taking it as an opportunity, because apparently some of you kids, you've been so corrupted by filth, being raised down south, that you don't even understand what I'm saying, even though I speak right proper. So what I'm doing today, got myself a glass of wine, and I'm gonna use this southern state to translate for you into southern bollocks. So as well as my northern glory, you'll also, you southerners will be able to tell what I'm saying. So I'll be able to translate proper into southern, and southern into proper, like some fancy bloody Lord of Tapas. So then kids, Hansel and Gretel. Once upon a time, there were an hero who lived up north. Once upon a time, there was a member of the barbaric working-class peasant scum from some god-awful land. This guy, he had a son and daughter, Hansel and Gretel they were called. Story set in Yorkshire, but they have German names anyway, just 'cause they fucking do alright. 'Cause I bloody said so. It's my story. Anyway, he fucking loved his children, he did. Thought they were reet alright. He even let them sleep inside house when it were right cold. So good of a father he was. The man had illegitimate children and lived in a shack. But one day, this fucking nonce who works in Parliament thought it'd be a really good idea to put some silly bastard tax on pasties being warm. The Honourable Sir Geoffrey Winterbottom passed a perfectly reasonable and entirely enforceable taxation law. So obviously, he only had one reasonable course of action. He had to tell his kids to fuck reet off. Get out of his bastard house. But since he liked them so much, and he was such a good father, rather than actually telling them what he were doing, he told them they were off for a walk through a forest. Just lied about it. Now, his kids got onto his plan, because he tried dumping them somewhere every other week. He didn't like paying child support. So, his kids filled their pockets with stones and all this shite, and he took them to the woods. They kept dropping them behind them, so they left a reet good trail. They couldn't just remember their way back to house, because they were a bit slack. They were too working class to afford sat-navs or a map, or read. So, next day, told father were reet fucked off, because they got home in time to have his pie and peas. They returned to their homestead in time for a disgustingly bland meal without a trace of guacamole or hummus. So, this time, he took them out again, but they didn't have any stones left. So this time they raided his toll pantry and they took all his bastard pies, so he couldn't eat them anymore, which he were reet fucked off about. So, kids started to leave a trail of crumbs to follow back, but they got reet hungry and ate them all after 10 minutes. Fucking knackered they were. So, they looked back and they couldn't find their way back to the old house, even though they'd walked in a straight line. The children were obese and mentally impaired, or just northern. So, tall children were reet lost and reet hungry. Hungrier than my mate Dave that one time he ate his own shoes in Swindon. So his told children they were reet lost and reet hungry. Hungrier than my mate Dave that one time he got lost in Swindon and ate his own shoes. They'd just about lost hope, staggering along, holding along, with only each other for company, when their eyes fell against something majestic and wonderful. A building stood before them, its proud signage, a beacon of hope for all eyes who led upon it, its architecture proud and grand. "It's a fucking £1 bakery!" Hansel shouted in delight. "Quick, let's rob it!" Gretel replied excitedly. For those of you who don't know, you silly wankers, pound bakery is like a Greggs but cheaper and therefore better. They found a laughable relic of savage normal culture, somewhat akin to a crepe stall or a cappuccino shop, but shit. So Hansel, he ran Raid's store with a full escort. They found down Edgett Forest, that's also an estate for plot convenience, and as they smash through a window, this old mentalist comes out at door, and he tells them they can have all the food they want if Gretel just stops trying to make Molotovs with all the broken bottles on floor. Fucking ton of them there were, cause it's a council estate, like. The children engage in their genetically predefined criminal instincts and rob the store. It's one of the nicer area in the north, so there's parts of the floor visible through the broken glass. So kids are well happy with that, and they go into the old shop. There's pies and pasties and more pies and more pasties, and none of that shit food that some people make you eat, like fucking kiwis and Moroccan bean pies. So told kids go nuts eating all that snap. They eat so many pies, Hansel starts hallucinating and he tries to eat Ruth as well. And he ends up like a right fat wanker, well tubby, like my mate Dave would even be impressed, and he ate an entire Toblerone once, all in one go. One of them big ones as well, not mini size. Now, this old lady who lives there, she's getting a bit pissed off now because they've been in her house for 3 weeks. They've even been squatters' rights and everything. So she tries to ring police, but Gretel pushes her in an oven, claims she were a witch, and everyone takes her word for it. The northern judicial system's declined a bit since then. And then they lived in the £1 bakery, eating pies and pasties, happily ever after. So then kids, that was your story. I thought it would be good, wasn't it? Not like this fucking wine. It's fucking shit. Not even worth drinking.